Hello everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to talk to you about 5 books I've read recently. But before that, I want to explain why I'm doing recent reads now instead of monthly wrap-ups. So a few days ago, I watched a video made by Harriet Rosie. I will link to it down below, and she was talking about a few changes that she was making to her channel, and among those were that she wanted to make recent reads instead of monthly wrap-ups because she always felt throughout the end of the month like she had to have finished some books so that she could talk about them instead of just enjoying books and then talking about them. And that totally resonated with me, and I was like, why have I ever made monthly wrap-up instead of recent reads? So now I'll be making that. And moreover, I don't think I will be making any book hauls anymore because I've always felt kind of stupid filming them because I'm just not good at talking about books that I haven't read. I'm not saying book hauls are bad or anything, and I do enjoy watching a lot of them, but I think it depends on people because I, for one, do not like to know much about the books that I read before reading them, so I never talk about synopses or anything while doing my book hauls. So I basically don't give you any information, I just haul books. But as I won't be making book hauls, I do plan on sharing the books that I buy on Instagram. So go over there, my link is always down in the description box if you want to see that, because I do enjoy sharing the books that I buy so that you know what I might be reading soon, especially considering I don't make TBRs, more often than not. So yeah, that was just a bit of a big side note, but I did want to mention that. But without further ado, let's get into the first book I want to talk about. As usual, I'm going to go from the one I like the least to the one I like the most. So the one I like the least is The Husband's Secrets by Liane Moriarty. I read this one for Spookathon earlier this month, and I did not really like it. I mean, it's about these, I don't remember, 3 or 4 women who have these lives. Some have kids, some are a bit older. Honestly, they all mesh in my head now, and it felt a lot like watching reality TV, and I'm not saying it's bad, like it's not the worst thing I've ever read, but I did not like the writing very much. I mean, I would not, like I typically read literary fiction, and this is like not that at all. It's just not my thing at all. I would say that at some point it did become fun and there was a mystery because of the husband's secrets, and I did kind of want to know the secrets, but other than that I was just rolling my eyes, and there were a few comments about weight and mental illness at the beginning of the book that were really weird and just like made me want to throw the book, but I didn't. I still wanted to finish it just to know if it was really as bad as I thought, and it kind of was. I mean, I do think that the second half is better than the first half, but it still isn't a great book in my opinion. But I know a lot of people who have enjoyed it, so I would love to know if you have read it and enjoyed it and why, because I don't really get it, but I would love to. So that was the first one. The second book I wanted to talk about is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I listened to this one on audiobook. I had heard for a while that the audiobook was really good, and I do agree. I have listened to Recursion by Blake Crouch, which is his latest release. And the thing is, these two books are so similar, like it's crazy. He basically took the characters from Dark Matter, mixed them up a bit, and made Recursion. The whole premise is not exactly the same one, but it's also very similar, and I don't know, I was just very disappointed. I don't really want to tell you what it's about, because I think there's not a lot of plot, and the whole book revolves around the plot, which is very thin. So that's also one thing that I don't really like about Blake Crouch's books, apparently, is that he focuses a lot on plot instead of characters, and there's not much plot, so in the end, I don't really care. Again, I wouldn't say that this book is like the worst I've ever read or anything, but I didn't like the writing, and the characters were basically the same one as in Recursion, so I don't know, I don't hate them, but they're not a lot very developed, sorry. So I don't know, not for me at all. And it's supposed to be a thriller, and I did not find it thrilling at all. I guess I need the characters to be more, I don't know, important, more something in the story, and that's not what was happening there. So I didn't care. I have seen some books that are very plot driven that I have enjoyed, so it's not just me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the hype about this book. I have heard so many people for the years say how great it is, and I think also it's because they're like riveted by the whole concept of the book, which has to do with physics, but also like I'm a physicist, so I study physics at school, and basically his whole concept is completely unbelievable. I mean, I'm not saying, I get it's science fiction, like it doesn't have to be believable, but I have understood now that I prefer when science fiction is believable, at least in some way. Well, right there, like you just have to put your scientific thoughts out of the blue. Like it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. The whole point, like, yeah, anyway. But that didn't bother me too much, but I would like it better if it made sense in some way physically, and it doesn't. But the whole book just not my thing. The third book I want to talk about is Gilead by Marylinne Robinson. This one I do own a physical copy of, but I listened to it on audiobook, and I would recommend that. I thought the audiobook was really good. This book is about this man who is a reverend, and he's writing these letters to his son because he thinks he's not going to be around for very long because he's quite old and his wife is younger than him. So he's writing all these letters for his son to read when he's grown up and needs someone to tell him stuff. It was really cute, I thought. I really liked the characters and the writing. I thought it was really good, but the thing is, this book did nothing bad, but I wanted something more. I think it's kind of too quiet for me. I like books that make a punch in some way at least, and this didn't, in my opinion. I did like how he not exactly questioned his beliefs, but did think about a lot of things. He did question his religion a bit, and that was really interesting. And he was struggling to forgive someone, which is something that I think a lot of people can relate to. So like, I'm not saying this book is bad in any way, but I didn't think it was for me, and I don't think I'm going to remember much from it a few months from now, so I don't know. The fourth book I want to talk about is Frankisstein by Jeanette Winterson. This is a very recent release, and it is not exactly a retelling of Frankenstein, but it has some bits taken from that. Basically, we follow two characters in two different timelines. One is Mary Shelley while she's writing Frankenstein, and the other is in the present, where we follow Rye, who is a transgender woman, and she is having an affair with a man who is working on artificial intelligence and kind of not robots, but improving humans anyway. I thought there were a lot of very interesting things in this book. I liked the characters, and the writing was really, really good. Like, the characters were very developed, which is, as you have understood, something that I really like. And I don't know, everything was quite good, but at some point we had other characters that we followed besides our two main characters, which I understand the purpose because she needed to show us another part of the story that we weren't getting from these two, but it was weird. It was really done. I wish we had just had those two main characters, but that's just a side note. Besides that, I think Janet Winterson tried to tackle too many topics in one book and didn't really answer anything. I'm not saying a book has to give answers, but just opening the conversation about artificial intelligence, what it means to be human, and everything. I mean, it was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. The topics of artificial intelligence, being human, and being transgender were so interesting. But I would have liked for it to go somewhere specifically. Like, it was just very open, like throwing ideas around and then not really picking a side. I'm not saying it has to pick a side again, but I don't know. I would want it to go some way, and it didn't. It was just all in the surface, and I was disappointed by that. But other than that, I'm not sorry I read it. I thought it was really interesting, and I liked the characters, as I said, so not a bad read, but I wanted more from it. The fifth book, and the last one, the best one, is The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This is the third book in the Bone Season series, and not trilogy, as I thought. This book was really great. If you haven't heard, the Bone Season is following our main character, Paige. I'm really tired Friday, so I took a second. Paige is what we call in this world a dream walker, so she can get into people's dreams, kind of. It's more complicated than that, but you kind of get the idea. And this world has voyants, so people who have special powers, and some are stronger than others, and they all have some kind of link to the ether, so the dead in some way. Some people have a link through objects, like a deck of cards, tarot cards. Some, just like Paige, have it in themselves, basically. It's kind of complicated to get all of the world in the first book, and that's what I will say. The only bad thing, and I actually reread the first book because I read it like in 2017 and didn't continue with the series, so I reread it this year and then continued with the second and third book. The first book kind of struggles to put everything together, but that's kind of understandable because the world is so intricate. And that's why you have a glossary in each of the books at the end to tell you about the vocabulary of this world, and you really need it. But other than that, like, the first book is really setting things up, which is really good. It's really great. And the second and the third book are like very action-packed, and they're all completely different from each other, which is something that I was happily surprised by. And I cannot wait for the fourth book, which should be out in 2020. And yeah, it's gonna be great. I love the books. I love every single character. Also, I thought the romance was kind of unnecessary in the first one, but it makes more sense in the next books, I feel like. So that's so great. I honestly haven't loved a series like this in so long, so I'm really happy. And I raced through the third book, like, honestly. I read it in like a day or two. It was amazing. It was a great time, and amazing considering most of the books I've been reading have been not that great. But yeah. that is all for me. Thank you for watching. Please tell me if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, or what you have read recently, as I would love to know. But anyway, thank you for watching again, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye! Dream I know, deep up my feelings.